Hi everyone, I'm Glenda with SureFit Designs, and so many of you already know me as Glenda the Good Stitch. I'd like to say a big warm welcome to all of you. I've been looking at the people from all over the world coming into this chat, and it's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much, all of you, for participating. And I do hope that we have some new people with us today and that all of you learn a lot. Of course, it's October the 23rd, it's 11 o'clock, and we're broadcasting from just outside of the Boise area of Idaho. And one of the things that I announced to you in the notices about participating in this chat today is that I said, if you want to participate, I encourage you to draw yourself off 4 of your bodice fronts. And the reason is so that you can follow along when I'm actually doing the demonstrating for the neckline designing. Of course, today's chat is called Nifty Neckline Basics. And if you didn't get that done, that's okay. The benefit of doing it on full-scale bodices is that you'll have 4 necklines at the end to just put right onto your pattern and start sewing. But if you didn't do that and you want to work on your half-scale bodices, at the beginning of the chat, Kelly put up a link on where to go to get those half-scale bodices, so you can do that too. But since I have a lot of information to cover, you know me, I kind of go quickly. And the good thing is here in YouTube, you can come back and watch me as many times as you want, put me on hold, do what I've done, and then go on with the rest of the presentation. So even if I get a little ahead of you today, I think you're going to find this really valuable so that you can understand more about our necklines. Now, as a lot of you already know, we've been doing about 1 live chat a month. Now, we skipped August, and the reason we did that is because we were preparing for the live broadcast that we did. It was called Shirt Success, and that happened in September. Our broadcasts always take us a lot of preparation, planning, and organization time. So that's what we did in August, getting ready for September. But it was interesting what happened in that Shirt Success broadcast because and I should also say thank you to all of you who participated in that broadcast. We had people, again, from all over the world there. And for those of you who didn't participate but would like to get the information, that broadcast is now available in SureFitAcademy.com. So you can always go and join in. The gifts are still all there. You can get them all. And then the only thing that's not going to be real is the live portion of it. But you can always email me or your distributor with any questions you might have. So just remember that it really is there. We had so many great questions coming out of that shirt broadcast. And one of the things that happened in the broadcast is that I was showing the multitude of different garments that you could sew with your shirt pattern. So many people, when they see the word shirt, they think button up and mandarin or a collar stand and then the collar and a formal looking shirt, but that's not our shirt kit. In SureFit Designs, this shirt kit has so much flexibility. So I showed a lot of different designs that you can do with it. And one of them I showed was this little black jacket. And it had 1 single button right here. And I had a number of requests for the leaflet instructions or how-to videos on doing that black jacket, and we didn't have anything. So Wes and I said, well, you know what, there's been enough requests for that. Why don't we produce a design and sew along? So we did that, and we did it within the 10 days after that shirt broadcast, and it's now called the 1-button LBJ or Little Black Jacket. And it's got 12 lessons, and it's also in the Academy. That's SureFitAcademy.com. I think we're showing you a graphic of that right now. And in that jacket, there are 12 lessons to follow along. It is super simple, but I couldn't obviously sew. I'm getting my S's mixed up here. I couldn't sew in black because none of you would see what I'm doing. So I sewed it in this beautiful beige linen. Now this isn't real linen. This is 100% polyester, but it's linen-like. It was super easy to sew with. And so you can see all the details because I sewed it in beige. Again, you're going to find this 1-button jacket at the Academy. And also, in honor of our shirt broadcast, Elsa B. Hearn, our South African distributor, did another shirt design and sew along. And hers was the bomber jacket. And again, we're showing you a photograph of Elsa B. in her bomber jacket. I just love that black and white fabric that she is wearing. And Elsa B. did her jacket as a high hip level. Elsa B. sent me this fabric, and I wanted to have enough fabric to do low hip level because we're headed into winter. So not only did I make my jacket longer than Elsa B's, but I also fully lined my bomber jacket. And Elsa B gives you the directions for doing a full lining, and she also gives you directions for doing this really amazing welt pocket. It is a one-piece welt pocket, and it's hard to see mine. You can see my hand going in there because my fabric on the welt is the same as the jacket, but you could have easily done like a black welt there and it would stand out a lot more. But it's a one-piece unit to do this welt at the top. It's a very interesting way to do it, very easy. Just follow her directions. She does an excellent job of showing us how to do that. Now, Elsa B's Design and Sew Along is found in her academy. It's got a very similar address to the US Academy, but with SA on the end for South Africa. So her academy is SureFitAcademySA.com. And you'll go there and you'll be able to see her sew-alongs. And this is what she did in honor of our shirt broadcast. And thank you so much for doing that, Elsa B. When my jacket isn't on the mannequin, it's on me. I have enjoyed wearing it so much this fall. Okay, so what else have we got going on here? Questions and answers. Normally, I ask you when you're putting your questions in, please put a big capital letter Q in front of your question. Now we have my office assistant, Kelly, as well as our international distributors with us today. I didn't see Martha from Australia check in, but that's okay because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So if she's there, welcome Martha. If not, I hope you're enjoying your sleep. But I know that she's always coming back and watching our chats afterward. And I saw Judith and Elsa B check in. So hi to everybody. And those ladies are going to be answering your questions throughout the chat. And then towards the end of the lesson, if you have questions for me, again, please write them in the chat window, put the capital letter Q in front of them so that I don't have to scroll backward to find what your question was. Excuse me. The other thing, I have a question for you. Can any of you out there tell me, why does a neckline gape open? And I'm not talking about a high jewel neckline. That's the one we start off with on our body blueprints, our bodice blueprints. But whenever you start opening up your neckline, a lot of you experience gaping open at your chest. Can anybody tell me why that happens? Now I'm going to give you a few minutes to put your answers in the chat window, and then I'll come back and take a look at your answers. Now, while you're doing that, I have a brand new tool to show you. You know, we're always on the lookout for new and different things that can be used in SureFit Designs to make your sewing easier, quicker, fun drawing your pattern work, knowing that your patterns are going to end up looking the way they're supposed to. And what it is this brand new tool that we have called the curved T-square. So we're showing you this in our other camera here. I hope you all can see it. I've put it on white paper, and I'm just going to explain some of the features and benefits of the curved T-square. You've all seen me use a little ruler when I've been doing small little jobs. Well, we wanted to have our own in SureFit Designs. So what we've got here is this ruler is 1 inch and 3/8 wide. Why did I not make it 1 inch wide? Well, it's because I wanted to make sure everybody throughout the SureFit Designs world could use this. So we have Imperial or inches on one side of it, and we have all of the metric on the other side of it. So this big black line that's going down right here, that's the visual dividing line. So on this side, it goes from 0 to 15 centimeters and has all the millimeter markings. And on this side of the dividing line, this is 1 inch wide, and then it goes up to 6 inches. And then we have the internal markings being 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, and 7/8. That's what all of those lines are for there. And then at the top of it, this is very, very unique. We have a perfect semicircle curve at the top. And I'm going to be using this ruler as we go on this morning. Right here, this is a totally perfect 90-degree angle. And those 90-degree angles are so important when we're drawing and designing our patterns. And I'll show you a couple of instances as I'm demonstrating today. This distance from this point here to this point here is exactly 1 centimeter, which is 3/8 of an inch long. And then on this side of the curved T-square, this, let me get my pen in there, and there is, again, a perfect 90, and this distance from this point to this point is 1/2 an inch long, which is 1.3 centimeters. Then, as we look up to the top of the curved T-square, this side of it, going up to this dominant center line, is all in inch marks, and this side is all in metric. So depending on your needs, where you're measuring, you've got both options. So we've thought of all of our international customers as well, and I hope that you all really enjoy using this little tool. And up at the top, there is a little hole right there so that you can hang it on your pegboard. Okay, so that's our new tool. Again, you're going to see me demonstrating it. Now, I have this up on my website, surefitdesigns.com. This tool is so new that we don't have, that the distributors don't have them yet. We are actually getting our first shipment of this on Monday, and when the distributors order their next order of supplies from here in the United States, that's when they're going to be ordering their supply of the curved T-square. But what I'm encouraging you to do is contact your distributor and let them know that you want one, because that's going to give them an idea of how many to order in their next order. And then where you're going to find this in our websites is to go to the respective website. Of course, in the US, it's surefitdesigns.com. Go over to Shop and then scroll down till you get to Essential Tools, and you're going to see it in my website, and it's got a big new across the face of the product. Okay, now I know I have a question to answer from you folks, but before I do that, one other thing that I would like to mention is I would like to announce our Sew and Tell winner. For those of you who are new and don't know what Sew and Tell is, it's an opportunity for you to sew with your SureFit Designs patterns and then tell the world about it. And you do that by using our Facebook group. And then all that I ask is that you, with your photographs and your little write-up about what you've done, is that you put in the hashtags Sew and Tell and Me Made. And that's so that at the end of the month, Kelly can come in and sort really rapidly, and then we choose a winner. And it's not based on what your design was. It's not based on how you sewed it together. Obviously, I can't see your sewing constructions. It's based on your participation. And we just want you sewing and sewing successfully with SureFit Designs. Everybody absolutely loves to see all the garments that can be sewn with SureFit Designs, and I do too. So thank you for your participation. And our winner this month, her name is Janice Kelson. We don't have a photograph of what she sewed, but Janice, I hope that you're listening today, And if you are, send me an email to info@surefitdesigns.com saying, hi, I'm the winner. And what you're going to win this month is our new Design and Sew Along, the one button LBJ. So thank you so much, Janice, for your participation, and I hope to see a lot of you joining us. Now, speaking of our Facebook group, we just went over the 10,000 mark in membership. Thank you all so much for participating in that group. We love it. I know you do too. And we have a special little gift for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it just means that on Tuesday, and this is a members only gift, on Tuesday, I want you to make sure that you go into our Facebook group and get your gift. And I'm going to leave it at that because it's a surprise. Okay, so we are, the next thing I want to talk about is our monthly promotion. We are going into the biggest annual sale of the year, and that's our Tracing Vellum sale. This happens once a year. All the distributors participate in this, and what it is a BOGO 50. What does that mean? Buy one, get one at 50% off, okay? In our 18-inch wide vellum, which is what this is, and there's 50 yards in the roll, in the United States, that's a $20 savings. That's huge. It is the lowest price of the year. We also, of course, have our other vellum size on sale, BOGO 50, buy one, get one at 50% off. Now, I do need to mention a little bit about what's happened with our prices coming in from our supplier. Our supplier this year has raised our vellum prices twice to us, the purchaser. And there are rumblings that our vellum cost is going to go up again in December. I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no choice but to raise the product price to you, the consumer, this coming January. And the other thing that's happening, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this, particularly if you mailed anything anywhere, so far this year, we have had 3 postal price increases, and they always bump up our prices again come December and the holiday season, and then they're going to do it again in January. Postage all over the world is costing more and taking longer to get to its destination. And so I'm sorry, when you put the vellum into your shopping cart and you look at the postage, please realize that I have not raised the postage this year, and the truth is that it does not even begin to cover the cost of what it actually cost me to ship this to you. The tracing vellum is a very, very heavy product. And so I just really encourage you to get as much as you want now, because come January, not only will the product have to go up in price, but the postage is going to have to go up in price as well. What we usually see is people buying 2 rolls of 20 and 2 rolls of the 50-yard vellum. And usually that carries them through the year until our next annual sale. So just consider that. We have a special box that we put the 220s and the 250s into, and it's not going to make the box weigh anymore if you want to tuck in our brand new curved T-square. So that can just sit in the top of the box, and it's a perfect opportunity to get it because you won't have any additional postage. And that, again, I say in the United States, okay? The distributors will be offering them for sale when they get them in their marketplace. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the vellum sale is that it's for 3 days only. It started yesterday, and it's today, and then it ends tomorrow night at midnight, which is Sunday midnight, okay? So please take advantage of it and get what you need. Where you're going to find the tracing vellum in the website is, again, go to the distributors or my respective site, then go over to the shop tab, and then scroll down to Essential Tools, and you will find the vellum sitting there. Alrighty, so I've told you about the promotion and what an opportune time it is to get that, and then also please consider getting our new little tool. Now, we're going to move on with the lesson, and I did want to remind you that one of the things that I asked you to do was read page 19 in your dress kit instruction book, and that was all on necklines. But before I actually start in the lesson, I want to go back here and see why you think necklines gape open. Let's see. Let me go back. All right, let's see, what have we got here? Deborah Williams says, because you stretch the fabric when sewing or the shoulder seam is too large. That is very definitely possible. Sandra Powers says that you could have a hollow neckline or a forward shoulder, and that will also make the neckline gape open. And Esther Hopland says that the chest needs a dart so the neckline doesn't gape open. And Jean Garrod says the neckline is cut on the cross. So those are all excellent answers. So now let me address the whole situation of that gaping neckline. In the process of doing this, we are going to look at the very first neckline, which is the V-neck, okay? And when you are analyzing a V-neck, and by the way, all full disclosure, I snipped these pictures off of Pinterest, and that's where they came from. You know, Pinterest is an absolutely fabulous resource to use for getting ideas for all of our sewing projects. So everybody does it all the time. We look at what we've got out in the world, and we, as seamstresses, we're so lucky we learn how to copy it. Okay, so on this neckline, you can see that this is a slight curvature on this V-neck, and wherever her neck point is, I can't really see it because of her hair and her earrings, but I'm going to show you the back of the bodice, and it actually comes down a little bit on her shoulder line. So now let's take a look at the back of this V-neck. So now you can really see that this is dropped. If this was the cervical bone in the base of her neck, it's likely come down maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a half at the center back. But here you get a really good visual of how far down from her neck point is her shoulder line. Looks like she's got really long shoulders. That looks to me to be at least 2 inches down on the neckline, and I didn't get that when I was looking at the front picture. But we're going to look at a V-neck and how to draw it. So once again, if you have your tracing vellum ready of your bodice, now's the time to pull it out and follow along. All right, so general basics and guidelines for V-necks. You get to decide where you want that V to be on your body, okay? And the nice thing about that is if you're high-busted and no cleavage, like me, versus low-busted and lots of cleavage, you may want your neckline higher or lower. It just depends on where your bust line level is. So because we can do this for ourselves, we can do it exactly as we want. It's great because do one test garment and see, do you like it as high or as low as you made it? For this example, I'm going to measure down 5 inches and I'm going to make a little mark right there. And of course, this is the regular jewel neckline that is on your bodice blueprint. All right, now it would make logical sense to just take your designing stylus and connect from the point where you want that V to be up to your neckline. But in doing so, you are creating a perfectly straight line cut on the bias. And it's that bias line that is going to make you have a gaping neckline. So number one, I'm not going to do it absolutely a perfectly straight line. What I'm going to do is turn the designing stylus around, and you could start it at the 0. I'm likely going to start it about at the number 1, and I'm going to mark this and put it into that 5-inch mark going down. So let me just go like that. So you can see it wasn't perfectly straight. It was a little bit of a curve. And that's going to help it to lay against your chest a little bit better. But this still is a bias cut. Might not be a 45 angle, a perfect 45, whereas of course is your maximum stretch, but it's still a bias. So there's two things that are really important when you're sewing this, actually three. But number one is when you're running it underneath the feed dog, do not stretch that neckline. We have a tendency to have one hand at the back of the feed and one hand in the front. And sometimes we can tug a little bit too much on that fabric, which will make that neckline stretch open. Absolutely do not do that with a V-neck. Additionally, you may want to put a piece of stay tape or lightweight interfacing at the neckline to help prevent stretching. But the other thing that you can do is this. You can do an angled shoulder. Now, again, page 19 in the Dress Kit instruction book is where there's lots of information on necklines. And I show you one technique, which is really simple, which is to simply measure down a 1/2 inch, anywhere from 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, like that, and then connect that point to your shoulder point. All right, and then we're going to just cut that away. And so let me cut out this neckline. We'll open it up and take a look at it. Let me turn that so I've got a better cutting angle here. And oops, you know, I just changed this blade 2 days ago, and it must be me. I must not be pressing hard enough, but it didn't cut all the way through. Alrighty, now when you open this up, there we have a lovely neckline that will sit really well on your neckline because you shortened it at the neck point. When you sew this V-neck, it's just going to really hug your neckline beautifully. Now, there is one more way to remove that offending gape. I don't know whether it's gape or gap, however you want to say it, and it's this. You, instead of taking it off at the shoulder line, which is what I show you to do in the instruction book, you can also take it off in the middle of the neckline. So I've drawn a green line going straight across to the armhole, and the armhole is going to be a pivot point. So I've just put a little piece of tape there. Oops, and before I cut this, I absolutely want to make a mark here. On either side of my green line, I want a mark right there at 1/4 and a mark right here at 1/4 so that I know how much to overlap this. Now, I'm going to cut up to the armhole, which is my pivot point, and now what I'm going to do is simply take this upper portion of the bodice, I'm going to pivot it over top, and I'm going to line it up with that 1/4 inch mark that I made, like that. So that got rid of a 1/2 inch at the neckline too, just a different process than what I did. And of course, you would need to take your stylus, and then I use the number 1, so I'll do that again. You just need to true that neckline like this. So that's another way to get rid of that 1/2 inch. Now what I'm going to do is cut this one out, and we are going to compare one shoulder slope to the other. So that's cut away. Let me pull this back in position and line them up and see what happens and what the differences are. So I've got my center fronts lined up, my armholes are lined up, and now I think you can see this. The shoulder line is still exactly the same because it removed a 1/2 inch from the neck point, but it did, in this one, it did bring the shoulder point at your arm side in 1/4 inch and extended it out further. So in essence, it's shifted the entire portion of that upper bodice over. Either process is going to work. It's your choice. Try both of them and see which suits you best. And then one last thing that I want to say about the neckline, this V-neck, is that how much ever you have taken from the neck point down on your shoulder line, let's say I removed 1.5 inches there, make sure you, or if you've started on the front, that this one comes down 1.5 inches too, because whatever you do to the front shoulder line, you have to repeat and do on the back shoulder line in terms of length so that they sew together properly. Okay, neckline number 2 that I'm going to do is a sweetheart neckline. And again, if I said that this is the neck point here, how far down from the neck point is the shoulder seam actually starting? And I'm just going to make an arbitrary guess of about 2 inches down. Then, to make a sweetheart neckline, we've got some gentle curves coming down into the center front. A sweetheart neckline is usually used on bridesmaids' dresses, wedding dresses, but obviously we can put them on our day clothes as well. So, let's begin. On this sweetheart example, I'm going to come down 2 inches at the neckline, and I should also say something about taking your neck point down really far on your shoulder line. The further down it goes, the less shoulder seam you have, and the more integrity you're losing from your whole neck structure. So very thin shoulder line could create lots of gaping in the front depending on the style of the neckline. And again, I reference that on page 19 in the dress book. For this example, I'm going to go down my maximum of 2 inches, which I think is pretty, what do I want to say, like a good amount without being excessive, okay? Now, so then what I need to do is say, how far down from the hollow in my neck do I want the dip of that sweetheart to be? So I'm going to just say that it's 4 inches down, right there. And now I need my line drafter to draw this. I'm just going to line up this one line on the line drafter at my 2-inch marking on my shoulder line. And I'm going to draw a parallel line coming down. I'm not quite perfect there. And again, everybody, you know, I just have to mention too, I'm doing this in my thick pens because I want you all to be able to see this, and I've got too much on my table here, so let me pull this up into the line of vision here, and I'm going to draw this connecting point right here. The other thing I want you to notice, everyone, is that I don't have seam allowances in position here, and the reason is that I don't want any other accessory lines kind of confusing the whole process. All right, I was working in blue. Let me keep that blue. Okay, so I've basically created a square neck, even though a square neck wouldn't be totally square. Actually, what we do for a square neck is we kind of angle this a little bit because when it gets on the body, it ends up looking square. So then, at this bottom line here, I'm going to come in 1 inch right there. And I'm going to do this accessory line in pencil. Oops, I need my longer edge here. Pencil. Okay, I think you all can see that. Okay, so now I've got this in pencil, and now I want to kind of sketch in this design. What does that shape look like? Well, I'll pull this back so that you maybe, if I leave that there, it's likely still in the line of the camera as well. I don't want to get out of the line of vision here. So I need a gentle scoop right here, okay? And then it makes a curve like this, and then it comes up a bit and dips to center front. Okay, so always pencil in your sketches first. Then take one of our tools. In this case, I'm going to be using the Designer's Companion, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to fix up my lines. Let me see what curve I want there. I want a little bit of a dip right here going down into center front, and that's what that would look like. All right, now let's cut this one open and see what we've got. Again, I'll just say it, is that I am working without seam allowances. Any design that you do afterward, please make sure you add your seam allowances. I hope I pressed hard enough. There we go. Take that away. Now let's open this up. And there you have a really, really pretty representation of the Sweetheart neckline. Okay? So, pretty easy to do when you understand that you got to get your eyeballs kind of seeing what the design is and then how you draw it on your own blueprint. All right, the next neckline that I'm going to do for you is the boat or bateau neckline. And what we're seeing here is typically the bateau neckline or boat neckline is done in a casual kind of garment, like a knit pullover kind of, sailor type of top. In a boat neck, the center front is raised up a ½ an inch beyond the gullet in your neck there. And here is a time when the neckline comes out and makes a very narrow shoulder. So this kind of negates the rule that I just told you about not going down any further on your shoulder line than 2 inches. But why this works is because the neckline is going to get higher at your center front, which then lends the integrity to holding the whole top on your body. Now, I should also mention to you that Elsabee, in her next design and sew along that is coming up this month, is doing a beautiful maxi dress that has a boat neck. It has the bust dart transferred from the side seam up into the arm side, and she's doing it as a long flared dress. We're actually going to turn these directions also into a fashion leaflet for you. And I have full intentions of sewing it in a short version. Elsabee is doing the long version. But her design and sew along will be on her academy, again, SureFitAcademySA.com. So you'll want to watch for the announcements for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and design our boat neck. I've got my vellum ready to go, and for the boat neck, you want to raise the center front up ½ an inch, right there. And this is an instance where our curved T-square is going to come in so handy. I'm going to not do this in pencil, I'll do it for you in blue. That it's going to come in very handy because I want a perfect right angle at the neck point. And that's so that when I'm cutting my neckline open, I don't get some weird V formation at center front. So that is a ½ inch long there that I'm making that. And you'll see when I cut this open why. Now, when you're wearing a boat neck, as I'm showing you the traditional way to do this, which is to bring it ½ an inch higher than your neck point right here. But some people don't like their garments being up that high on their neck, so you can keep it right at your neck point if you want to. Then on the shoulder line, I'm actually going to measure from the shoulder point in 1½ inches, and then I need to take the designing stylus and I need to join this point here with this point here. And what I'm going to use is the number 10 on my designing stylus. So in comes the number 10, and I'm going to just move the stylus carefully over till it joins up with this side of my 90. Notice I'm not taking that line right to center front, because if I did, I'd get a V shape, a really open wide V shape at the front of my boat neck, and I don't want that. So there's the boat neck on the front, and let's cut this open and cut off this little bit of shoulder line. And I'll open this up. If I can get the vellum separated, I'll open this up so that you can see this. So you can see that using this curved T-square ensured that I was going to get an absolutely beautiful smooth transition going from one side of the bodice to the other side. Now, what happens on the back bodice for a boat neck? It's just exactly the opposite of the front neck. What we're going to do is, again, I'll take my T-square and I'm going to come in here, and I'm actually going to lower this 1/2 inch. So let me make my mark right there at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to take this, line this up perfectly with the center back, make my perfect 90-degree angle. I'm going to come over 1.5 inches right here, and I'll do the same thing, which is line up the number 10 on the designing stylus with my shoulder point, and then I'm going to come out to this edge on the center back. And when I cut that open, and it'll look like this. Oh, it didn't cut through again. Let me redo it. There we go. And so the general rule of thumb on a boat neck is that you raise the center front point up 1/2 inch and you lower the back neck down 1/2 inch. And you lower it down because our back necks are typically quite a bit higher than our front necks are anyway. So there's a fun design to do for you. Make it out of a nice knit fabric. Take a photograph of it on you, post it in our Facebook group, and make sure you put on the hashtags Sew and Tell and Me Made. Alrighty, one more neckline that I would like to do for you is the asymmetrical neckline. So let's analyze this for a moment. And here we've got asymmetrical means one side is not the same as the other. And this shirt from Pinterest is an excellent example. Again, here's neck point and shoulder point, and this shoulder line looks actually longer than this shoulder line does. So we're going to say that this one is 2.5 inches long and this one is 2 inches long. And then I need a design line coming down across the front of the chest and then down from the shoulder line. I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but it looks like there is a seam there. I'm going to pretend that the seam isn't there, but you could easily make a seam going across there if you wanted to. So here's my next tracing vellum. Now, because I need to see the whole picture in doing an asymmetrical design, I have drawn this off twice, on the fold, of course. And so we said that this shoulder line would be 2.5 inches long. So I'll use my new little handy ruler and mark it in place like that. So this was 2.5, and this one we said would be 2 inches long. Then I have to take a line going down here and connecting with the other side. So what I decided is that I was going to come in about 3 inches from my armscye, and then I'm going to come down approximately 3.5 inches from my shoulder line. And now we need to connect from this point to this point. And you can do it in a straight line if you want, like that, or you could let's make it a curved line. It all depends what you'd like to have. And we'll give this a little bit more of a curve, like this. And of course, whatever you want is, and you can see the difference that it makes. You wouldn't want a really big curve on that, I wouldn't think, but it's up to you. So I'm now going to cut this open so that you can see what our asymmetrical neckline looks like. And as I said on this diagram, if you wanted a seam going across right there, you would just continue cutting. And I've already said this a couple of times in this chat, but I'm talking about seams. We need to add seam allowances, okay? And there we have our asymmetrical neckline. Now, some of you might be sitting there and thinking, what about how do I finish this now? What are my neckline options? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. You could put a ribbing on this. You could put bias binding on it. In one of my design and sew alongs in surefitacademy.com, I do a sleeveless blouse where I put bias binding at the neck and at the armhole. And another way that you could do this is just by putting on a narrow facing. And one of the videos that, well, not one of them, there's only one, the video that we're going to run for you at the end of this chat is about 10 minutes long, and it's how to draw facings. So I really encourage you to stay when we're all done here today and watch that little 10-minute video, because I show how to put facings on fronts, armholes, and I think I do one at the neckline. But the whole principle of drawing a consistent shape for a facing is what I'm showing in that particular video. So please stay tuned and watch that as we, at the end of the chat. And so that's our 4 necklines, but I have a bonus neckline for you today. And we are going to do a keyhole neckline, and we're going to do it with our new tool, the curved T-square. So first of all, what I will do is measure down from my jewel neck, and I should also just say, one of the things that I did when I was drawing off my vellum worksheets for you here is I made sure, and you can see that these necklines were totally 90 degrees, so that if we were to cut, you would get a continuation of that circle, semicircle at your neckline perfectly going into the other side. But on this one, we're going to do a little variation, and I'm using the 1-inch mark on my curved T-square like this, and I need to take my designing stylus to shape this. Okay, and I'm not going to shape it all the way around because you're going to see this in a second. Now I'm going to take my curved T-square, and this center line that you're seeing right there, I'm going to line this up with the fold or the center front marking on the front of my pattern, and then I am lining up, what is that? That's the 5/8 inch line. I'm just lining it straight up as on my folded vellum here. Now this circle is a perfect semicircle that's at the end of the curved T-square. I'm going to bring it like that, and I'm just going to continue the connection up to that line right there. So now let me cut this out, and you're going to see a really cute keyhole neckline. Got to press a little harder here to make sure I get through the vellum. And I'll open this one up for you. Let me get the shoulder cut too so that you get a better impact of the finished design. And there we have a cute little keyhole neckline. I think that you're really going to have fun with this new tool and really, really enjoy it. So as I said before, tuck it in your box of vellum and it'll come out to you. And by the way, Our shipment for these curved T-squares is supposed to be here Monday, but you know UPS and delivery. So if it doesn't get here till Tuesday, that means that anybody who orders one, your order will go out on either Wednesday or Thursday from the United States, okay? But we're hoping we'll have them by noon on Monday and be able to get a lot of your orders out. So that reminds me to just remind you our annual tracing vellum sale. Buy one and get one at 50% off. It's the best price of the year. For those of you who came in late and didn't hear me talking about this at the beginning of the chat, we have had already from our supplier 2 price increases this year. We anticipate we'll get another one in December. The cost of the vellum to you will no doubt be going a little bit higher in January, as will postage rates. So please take advantage of our buy one, get one at 50% off. It only happens once a year. All the distributors are participating. The sale is going to be over tomorrow night, Sunday midnight. And where you're going to find the tracing vellum as well as our new curved T-square is go to our websites, go to shop, scroll down till you come to Essential Tools. Alrighty, it's time for me to answer your questions. So let's just take a look. Let me get these things off the table here. And I need to take a look at your questions that I may not have answered. Let me pull this a little bit closer to me so I can read it. Good question from Jojo Sewist. Can we purchase one long and one short at 50% off on the short one? In the United States, Jojo is referring to the tracing vellum. In the United States, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You can't mix sizes. Every distributor has a slightly different twist on their promotion, so make sure that you read the newsletter from your distributor. Everybody's doing the sale, but everybody's doing something that's just a little bit different, okay? But in the United States, no, I'm sorry, you can't mix sizes. How do I finish, and this is from Sherry Barnum, how do I finish an S-curve neckline in a knit? I would put a narrow facing on it and just make sure the facing is shaped exactly the same shape as the neckline. Wrangle Jangle said, do you fix the gaping neckline the same way on a curved neckline? And yes, absolutely you can. So I would actually, what would I do there? I would likely, once I've got the curvatures done that I wanted on the neckline, then I'd likely cut across into the armhole, overlap, and then retrue the curvature. Can these necklines, this is from Kristen Champlin, can these necklines be used on the shirt design with the shirt front on the fold? Absolutely you can. Yeah, anything that I showed you today, just because I was using the dress bodice, doesn't mean that you can't do it on the shirt. Absolutely, change the neckline to your heart's content. MJ asked, how do you cut the fabric, bodice front, for the asymmetrical neckline? How you're going to cut it, let me pull that neckline back over here. You're going to cut it, MJ, as one single layer on the fabric, all right? You can't cut this double. It has to be cut exactly the same way it was drawn, on a single layer of fabric. Let's see, any more questions? This is from Uncluttered Creative. If I want my neckline to sit up against my neck, like your bomber jacket is, do I move the neckline edge in? And uncluttered, yes, you do, and we show you how to do that. It's kind of a funnel neckline, and it is in your instruction book, and I'm just trying to find the reference to it. It's kind of a funnel neckline, And let me just flip. It should be here. Okay, it's on page 52 of your dress kit instruction book, how to bring your neckline in and curve it up to your own personal neckline. Lady Gala, do we still have a Canadian distributor? No, I'm sorry you don't. Anna is no longer with us. Her website's going to be shut down in a few weeks, and she's out of stock completely. And so any Canadians that are listening right now, I'm your distributor. You're welcome to email me your questions and make any purchases from the United States. Rosemary Barrett, is boat neck facing described in your following tape? No. The boat neck face, so in the following tape, the video, you mean we're going to show you. The answer is no, it's not, but the process is identical, okay? So whatever the shape is what you copy. Now, interesting that you should ask that question because I just saw the rough notes for Elsa B's boat neck maxi dress, and she does describe drawing the facing for that. But a facing is a facing. Doesn't matter whether it's an armhole or a crazy curvature or what. It's all the same process. Laura E. Jones, can you create templates for each neckline so that the whole pattern does not need to be redrawn? Absolutely you can. Sure. Once you've got your bodice blueprint done to fit your body, make yourself some templates, and that way you just need to draw around, put another piece of tracing vellum down, and copy it. Let's see here, another question from Melissa Smith. If you want to put gathers in the asymmetrical neckline, eliminating the dart, what would you do with the short side of the neckline? I likely wouldn't do it that way. That's what I would do. You know what you could do is, why don't you, if you wanted to do the asymmetrical neckline, why don't you continue, where did my little T-square go? I must have set, here it is. Okay, I would likely continue this line, this neckline going down like that, and then I'd transfer my bust dart up into that neckline, into the neckline cut that you've got there. That's how I would likely do it. So you'd pick up the shape, except for it's a long, long way away from your apex. I don't know if I would even consider doing that. I'd have to really think that one through. But this one, sure, if here's your apex right there, you could take it and you could, let me move these things from underneath where I'm drawing. You could take some cutting lines going like that, and you could create some gathers this way. But I'd have to think about what I want to do with this one. Maybe what you could do is take some of this fullness and bring it up into this. But depending on how full your bust line is, that might not be a really good option. But again, I have to think about that. Okay, what other questions do we have? Evelyn Evans, hello everyone, I'm new here. Welcome Evelyn, we're glad to have you. What is the website address? Well, if you're in the United States, it is surefitdesigns.com. And if you're in one of our international countries, I'm going to leave it up to the distributors to put their answer in for you because we don't know where you're residing, Evelyn. Okay. Dimples73 asked, understitch, good idea for facings? Absolutely. There isn't a facing that I don't understitch if I can get in and do it. Sometimes it's not possible to get right into little corners, but I'll tell you what, understitching is going to make the difference between making your garment look homemade and handmade professional. Always, always understitch. Makes that facing roll beautifully to the underside. Trudy Boatwright, I want to add an updated version of the dress kit instruction book to my vellum order. How do I do that? I have the 5th edition. We are on the 6th edition, and Trudy, you're going to need to call us, and we'll have to take your payment over the phone for that because we don't have just the book only. If you can wait till after the broadcast, then Kelly is in my office in another location. We can get you her phone number. Okay, Lori Pruitt, wouldn't you do a right angle on the shoulder line on the boat neck in addition to doing it at the center front? Oh, no, you can't do that, Lori. Let me pull my boat net back here. This is not a right angle. It can't be. It's got to come in at an angle. If you had a right angle, the right angle would have to go down like this. And then, let's see what would happen. It would come across, there's my 1/2 inch. It would come across like this. So, let's say, I just said you can't do it, but if you did it, it wouldn't be a true boat neck, okay? There isn't, I mean, I suppose there isn't any logical reason why you can't do that. It's just that you're going to have a little straight line here on your shoulder line. But it's not what we typically consider as a boat neck. Okay. Uncluttered Creative says, are there any special considerations for drafting these necklines for a front opening garment like a button front? No, not really, but it's best to design the neckline first and then add your button extension and your facings. If you add those first, then the neckline can get kind of confusing because you're not exactly sure where to draw your extensions to. So my recommendation would be do the special design first and then add on the required button extensions and facing extensions. Maria Conde, for young, shy person with big proportions on the top, what neckline would you recommend to start? Likely just maybe a gentle scoop neckline. I didn't do that one today, but it's just a matter of taking the neckline down as much as the person is comfortable with. That or perhaps the V-neck. Again, it just depends so much on the person and what styles they like and how short or tall they are. Let's see. Janaki Anderson. I hope I've said your name correctly, Janaki. I have narrow and sloping shoulders. Do I have to make additional considerations for the necklines? Well, no, you don't have to make additional considerations, but you do need to do your narrow sloping shoulder tune-up first. Get that on your blueprint. The neckline design is only going to be added after your blueprint is done. Okay, Karen Rowling. I'm new. What's understitching? Karen, we have an entire series called Make It So. In that entire video series, there's 4 discs, DVDs. I go over all of these things. Understitching is there. What is understitching? I don't know if we can pick this up on camera number 2. If I close this laptop lid a little bit, I don't know if we can see this. But understitching is the row of machine stitching that goes right along the edge of the facing where you've got the facing rolled to the inside and the seam allowances are pressed towards the facing, and this line of stitching goes right here. And what understitching does is it holds that seam allowance towards the facing, so that it doesn't accidentally roll out to the right side. Okay, we tried to capture that in a close-up. I hope that that all made sense. But I really recommend, since you're new and didn't know what understitching is, please go and look at our Make It So DVD series, because you are going to learn a ton of information. There's 28 lessons there. Understitching is one of them, along with a lot more. Let's see. Okay, Carmen Salome, sorry I missed. This is the back neckline. Is the back neckline also asymmetrical? It can be if you want it to be. It's up to you. The neckline could be whatever you, I mean, your shoulder lines have to be the same length, of course. So, because one shoulder line was 2.5 inches long and the other was 2, you'd have to consider that in your back neck, the back bodice, all right? But it doesn't have to be asymmetrical. Let's see. Llewellyn Friars, I just answered about the back neckline for the asymmetrical. Okay, I do not see any more questions there. This is the last chance calling for questions. Do you realize, everybody, that this is the shortest chat I have ever done? I've gone 6 minutes over 1 hour. And I know an hour is a long time for a lot of you, but you can see that I give you so much information that it just, like, the time literally flies. So what I'm going to do is say thank you so much to everybody. You know, we likely won't have a live chat in November and December. And the reason is it's the holiday season and everybody's got, you know, Thanksgiving coming up here in the States, and we've got Christmas activities and friends and family coming to visit and food to make and all kinds of things and presents. And, you know, I just think it's too hectic. We usually do these chats towards the end of the month, and that's going to hit us right at Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So please just watch our emails. What we are going to be doing, Wes and I, we're going to be redoing old videos. We're going to be making new videos. I invite you to send me an email at info@surefitdesigns.com. What video topics would you like me to cover? I am always open to your suggestions. I love hearing from you and what you'd like to have me cover. And please, everybody, I have a big request. Hit that subscribe button right below where I'm speaking. It does really good things for our YouTube algorithms. And make sure you make comments down below. Again, that's all very, very helpful in our YouTube ratings. And I encourage you to stay for 10 minutes more and watch how to draw facings. Thank you so much for participating, everybody. I'll see you maybe in January, okay? But watch for our emails, because when we do put up new videos in YouTube, I will be sending you out email announcements. Thanks again. Have a wonderful holiday season, everybody, and I'll see you the next time. Hi everyone, my name is Glenda with SureFit Designs, and this is part 2 of buttons, buttonholes, and facings. There's basically 2 kinds of facings. One is a turn back facing, which is cut all in one with the body of the garment, and the other is a stitched on facing, and that facing is cut separately. Let's take a look at a couple of different examples. On this blouse, and I'll apologize that the fabric's a little bit dark. If I was to open this up, which I can't all the way because the buttonholes already go all the way through, but as I try to pull that facing apart, you can see that that's all in one with the body of the garment. So that's a turn back facing. And I'm going to be showing you how to do those. And then in this example, where we've got a very shaped center front, it's impossible to do a turn back facing, so this is a stitched on facing, and there you can see the facing is laying inside. It's been stitched on, trimmed, graded, understitched, and of course pressed beautiful and flat. The same thing happened in this particular dress. This is a shirtwaist style dress from So Sensational Shirts. Here I wanted the facing to be part of the Revere collar, and so I've done the facing as, yes, a separate sewn on facing. I've done it in a totally separate color, and then as the lapel collar lays back over top, the facing then becomes exposed in that collar section. So we're going to take a look at both of those now. First of all, the turn back facing. It's really simple to do this. In part one, I showed you how to add on a button extension and how to determine the width of that, and also where to place your buttons, or your buttonholes, I meant. Then, now that we've got that button extension in place, now we've got to create what is called the turn back facing. So make sure you leave enough tracing vellum coming out on the extension side of that button extension, and then all you're going to do is lay or fold the tracing vellum back on itself, and I'm folding it right on that button extension line, just like that. And because I can see through this vellum so well, I can then draw right through on the underside of the vellum and I'll draw this in pencil first of all. Now, what about the width of the facing? My personal preference is to use a standard of a 2-inch wide facing. Sometimes that's not going to work. It just depends on the garment. But I'm going to start off at the shoulder line with a 2-inch wide extension, and then I'm going to come down into the straight part of center front, and I'm going to make this a 3 1/4 inch extension right here, and like this, and like this. Because remember, part of this facing is your button extension. And then what I will do is draw a straight line coming straight up on those pencil lines, and I will do this in a different color so you can see it, because even with the pencil I went a little bit crooked, but you know, with pencil it's so much easier to erase that, and you can't do that with pen. And so then I'm going to connect into the shoulder line, and you can see I'm just using the designing stylus to curve right into there. And then I also want to make sure that I've added on the appropriate curvature for the, curvature for the neckline and straight line for the shoulder line, which I just did there. So I'm going to do all of that in pencil. Okay. Now, so that you can see this really well on the, when I unfold this, now I'm going to do this in pink. So I'll redo the neckline like this. Remember, I'm still working on the, well, call it the wrong side or the underside of the tracing vellum, but you'll see what happens when I flip that open. And now this curvature, whoops, I used this part of the, and you can see all that I've done here is I've just made a gentle curve coming down from the shoulder line in towards the front of the garment. And then let's see if I can make this a little straighter in the pen than I did in the pencil. There we go. All right, now what we'll do is unfold this, and it will look like this, and I'll pull this into the view of the camera area. So now you've got a perfectly sized or shaped facing that all you need to do is, you know, cut that out with the body of your fabric, your garment, and then when you go to face the front, you go back on the button extension, and there you have it. That's a real easy one to do. Now let me show you the next example where you might have something different going on at center front, like I did on that little beige jacket with the curved center front. Here I've just done a V-neck, and we'll just get this all lined up here for you. All right, so once again I have the center front marked, I have my button extension marked, and I put a V-neck on the front. So now, because I need to do a stitched on facing, it means that I must also add my 5/8 inch seam allowance at center front and wherever you know, if you've got scallops or a curve or whatever the case may be. So center front, button extension, and the seam allowances must be in place. Then what you'll do is take another piece of tracing vellum, a separate piece this time, and lay that over top, and so that it doesn't move around on you. If you have some of this removable tape, it just works really well to place this down like this. Now, I've already penciled that in. Now I'm going to go ahead and start just drawing this for you in pink. And I can do my straight lines like this. So I'm going to draw right out to the seam allowance line, and I will make a little marking right there, and I'm going to call that the button extension, and one right there, that center front. And I need my stylus here. For the center front, I've done just a slightly curved line for the V-neck, and the reason that I do that is because a slightly curved line is going to sit into your chest a little bit better, because remember, this V now is on the bias, and that's going to have a little bit of stretch to it. So we want to make sure that it's not going to pull away and gap at your neckline. So there's the shoulder line. And then, let's see, what did I use here on the stylus? Looks like I used this slight curved edge on the designing stylus right here, and I'll join that up to my straight line. So that now becomes the facing. And there's my center front marking right there, and that's my button extension coming out to that line. And when I take that away like this, now I've created a perfectly shaped and designed facing for the front of this garment. So that's a stitched on facing. And one other one that I would like to show you is if you were doing a sleeveless garment and you wanted to face this area. Now this doesn't have anything to do with buttons and button extensions, but still it's a good time to be talking about drawing facings in general, because you can just, whatever area it is that you want to face, you simply take a piece of tracing vellum and lay that over top, and then draw around. And I'm going to freehand this. It's just a little bit quicker for me than using the stylus, but let's just draw around this. There's your armhole. That's the cutting line, meaning that was the seam allowance. And there's my shoulder line up like this, and I want to give this facing. Here I might do this facing, let's say I did this one, 1.5 inches wide is plenty for an armhole. At center front I really do like 2 inches, but for armholes 1.5 inches is plenty. And so I'd go around like this with my seam gauge, and I would mark the width of that facing like this. Then what I would do is I'd take my designing stylus and come in and join this together like this. And you know, facings don't have to have seam allowances on them. You're going to likely clean finish that facing. Well, you know what? I take that back. It could have a clean finish, which then you might want to add another 1/4 inch to this. But usually I just serge the edge of my facing and I don't add anything different. So there you have a perfectly shaped facing. So now this one was 1.5 inches wide. I talked about the standard being 2 inches wide. Of course, there's always exceptions to every rule. And on this little tank top here, because the shoulders were so narrow, I just did a facing that was about 1.1 inches wide. So every rule has its exceptions. That's how easy it is to design facings, whether it's a center front or armholes or necklines or wherever. And for this and other informative videos working with SureFit Designs, please make sure you go over to the SureFit Designs Learning Center and click on the video library.